Good morning, good afternoon, and good evening. I'm Darren, and I'm a solutions architect at AWS. And I'm your host today for today's episode of AWS GameTime. Today, I'm joined by Haz from HaZimation, and we're going to talk about the games that HaZimation are working on, including their early access game Rift, but also we have some exclusive footage for our audience today. So, hi Haz, how are you doing?
Hi, thanks, Darren. So excited to be here. So excited to be talking to you. I've got so much to show, man. So yeah.
Yeah, looking forward to seeing it. So thanks so much for spending time with us. Let's start from what is HaZimation up to today? Is there anything you can share with us right now?
Yeah, I mean, I guess it all starts back from when we set up the company HaZimation. It was originally set up like 2 years ago, and we were making animated feature films. We've done a bunch of short films. We did a trailer for a game adaptation that we're doing called Mutant Year Zero for Funcom. And we just got the bug of working in real time, and from there we decided we're going to make an animated feature film, which is this film here called Rift, and that is currently doing its festival rounds at the moment. In fact, it's been shown at Sparks Animation last month, and now it's been shown at a BAFTA qualifying festival called British Urban Film Festival on 29th November, and then we're off to distribution next year. You know what? Why don't I just show you what this movie is, because
Yeah, let's
we're
see
super
it.
proud of it. It's all done in a
Yeah,
video game engine. So here it is.
thank you.
Going home, Max. You and me.
You and me.
Keep your fire away from the asset.
Run!
He's dying, Leon. He's been leaping from reality to reality, trying to find the one in which you do save him. And he won't stop, even though it's killing him. He won't stop till he finds the reality in which you succeed.
It's not gonna be this one, all right?
The next time he riffs, he will die. Max.
Awesome. Yeah, so that's amazing work that your team has put together. I understand you've been traveling a lot around on the festival circuit. So, really fingers crossed, and glad to hear that you've been getting really good reception on your
Thank you.
movie so far. So, yeah, excellent
Thank
work.
you.
But
Yeah.
we're here to talk about games, right? So,
Yes.
really keen to hear about the game side of Hazimation as well. And how did you make that transition?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I mean, we knew while making Rift that we are in a real-time game engine and we're doing everything in real time, which means that we're building our assets in a very optimized way. The same way you would when making video games. I started my career back in 98, on PlayStation 1 and then leading PlayStation 2, working in video games, right? So I've always had that in my mind to like really make, CG low resources for memory. As well as make it look good. And then, flash forward, I work in movies. I went to work in as a visual effects supervisor, and then became a filmmaker. And now full circle, I'm back into the game world. And what we realized was that there's only so much you can put in a 90-minute movie. Like you saw the trailer, there's a lot happening in the trailer, but there's only so
Yeah,
much you can
yeah,
do in 90 minutes from a story. And this is a movie about multiverses, right? It's about this brother that's trying to break out his little brother who has special abilities to distort time and space. And it's like Edge of Tomorrow. He keeps repeating it every time he's trying to break his brother out. He fails and he has to try again. But his little brother uses his abilities to try and change the course of fate via the fabric of time and space. So it's very complex, right? And there's only so much you can put in a 90-minute film to make it accessible to audiences today. Whereas in a video game with a multi-branch narrative, there's so much you could do. And the beautiful thing about this whole process is the fact that we spent close to 2 years building the world in Unreal. You know, the characters, the environments, the vehicles, the effects. So when it came to like making a game demo just to see if this would work, it was a really fast process. It's literally taken what we had built, which was optimized already because we didn't want to work photorealistic. As you can see in the trailer, it's a very stylized anime look.
Yeah.
So yeah, but also at the same time, one thing that people don't realize, and even when you watch this trailer, is what you saw in that trailer is what you call final pixels, which means there's no visual effects or compositing. It's straight out of Unreal Engine onto the frames, exactly like when you play a video game.
Yep.
So we have to be optimized. We have to work in a very optimized way, like you would in games. So when we moved into the video game space by taking all our assets, it was a very quick, like within 24 hours, we had everything migrated, and we started focusing on game design. And we started putting together an early access game demo to really see if making a game was a good idea or was it just all in our heads. So we put together this demo, which is this demo here. But before we do that, I just want to talk a bit about our development team, right?
Okay.
Because
definitely.
It doesn't matter how many games you make or how cool your tech is, a company's built on people. So this is essentially you're looking at is our development team. And the interesting thing is like the labels at the bottom of each of these amazing individuals are like game systems architect, game dev coder. Well, these are also the guys that worked on the movie as well. Okay. So like if this was a movie slide, it'd be like animator, director, producer, and so on. But our team is very small. You can see that we're a nimble team, but we ramp up. So during Rift, the movie, we ramped up to like 12 or 15, then we ramped back down.
Right.
But what you're seeing here is a core team, obviously all overseen by our studio overlord, Mia the cat, obviously.
Yeah, super cute. I'm loving that.
Dude, the logo of the company is a cat.
Got to give credit where credit is due, right?
100%.
So is everyone based in London at the moment, or are you all based in the same location? How do you collaborate? Because you obviously have so much work going on, but curious to know how you get around that.
That's a really good question, dude. I mean, originally the company actually set up with just myself, Andrea Tateshi, and Paula, and we're all three of us are based in London. I'm based in East London, Andrea's West London, and Paula's West London. And then we started to grow it out, and Sam came on as our game designer. He originally was just a level artist. He's based in London. So the only people that are not based in London is Alex Kong at the bottom there. He's based in Vancouver and Mexico. He does all our motion capture. And then we have Ernesto, who's based in Argentina, who's our game dev, coder, systems wizard. And obviously Ryan Fleming and Miles are all based in the UK. Ryan's based up in Manchester. Miles is based in Southend. So I guess that is geographically out of London. Yeah.
But I mean, it's everywhere. That's amazing.
Yeah. But we have a lot of other artists working with us, other freelancers that come in. What you're seeing there is just the core team, right? So we have freelancers that are based in LA, Florida, New Zealand, like literally Australia, everywhere, like South Korea and so on. And that's only possible because we have a very solid virtual production remote studio setup, which is pretty much, we use something called Perforce that manages source control, and everything in our company runs off AWS. So we have a central server, and it's amazing because sometimes you forget that you're working remotely because it's so seamless. Like every morning I'll come in, I'll press synchronize the latest downloads onto my computer. I'm working. When I want to update the level, I just press update and it synchronizes back up. So with AWS Perforce, that is how we're able to have so many people work on our team very seamlessly and very fast. We're able to ramp up, ramp down. We're able to increase our bandwidth on AWS because it's very elastic, and also increase licenses of Perforce when we need. Unreal works nicely with Perforce on AWS. This would not have been possible, like in my opinion, like say 10 years ago. We just wouldn't have that kind of infrastructure from an accessibility point of view, as well as a cost as well.
Yeah, I think that's really cool. Like you've got so many different skills and talents, and your team is, there's so much that your team is doing just within this small group of people, and it's really impressive. And I think it's, would you have any advice or any tips for game studios or even just budding games developers? What are the tools to keep aware of and actually make their lives easier to make their dreams come true.
100%. Like, I have to admit, before we did it like the proper way, we were using Dropbox, right? And it
Right.
it was just me and Andrea that was the dev people, and we were using Dropbox. And as you grow, you realize that doesn't work for a million reasons why it doesn't work, but mainly source control and accessibility and efficiency, right? So I would advise anyone, whether you're a solo developer to a micro team developer or small studio like us, is choose your engine of choice, whether it's Unity or Unreal or whatever, or Game Maker, whatever you want to use. But the most important thing isn't just about the game engine you're using. The most important thing is the infrastructure you're setting up. So whether you want to use GitHub, whether you want to use Perforce, the interesting thing about Perforce is it's free to use up to 5 users. So if you're a solo developer that brings in people when you need, like, you need an artist or an animator, just do it all Perforce, and then you pay once you go past 5 users. But also AWS as well. Like, not that I'm plugging AWS because I'm on this amazing chat with you, Darren, but seriously, like, the thing that made me afraid of AWS originally, when I wasn't very aware of it before, being so tunnel vision as a solo developer, was the fact that I thought it was expensive. I thought, oh my god, it's expensive. Oh my god, there's so much infrastructure set up. I'm not an IT person. I don't have a systems guy. And then when we set the company up, we applied for the AWS founders startup credits, which gives you like $1,000. And we got that, which is amazing. But it wasn't just the credits that we got. We also got a ton of support. And we found, oh my god, it's actually pretty straightforward to set up an AWS account because of the documentations you have and the walkthrough videos. So it meant that, Andrea can just look into setting it up very quickly on the server, and we could already start uploading stuff and working. And so that's the thing I would tell everyone. Any indie developer is like, infrastructure is probably one of the most important thing, as well as your game engine, on how you're going to get your game made. It isn't just about having gorgeous artwork and gorgeous code and gameplay. Of course, that's the end result. But how are you going to get people to come in? How are you going to scale up? Whether you're a solo developer or an indie studio, you always got to have a mentality of like, yes, right now I've got a small knit team, which is great, but at some point I am going to scale up. So you may as well set your studio up to allow for scaling up, and not just work in that mentality of being small. And then when you do decide to scale up, whether your game scales up or whether you got better publishing deal, then it becomes harder to expand if you don't have that set up from the ground upwards.
Yeah, that makes sense. Like, so the building blocks of your game studio and like the team itself, the creative team, are ready to go, 100%. Take you to where you need it to go. No, that's really fair. And I think, we've been having conversations as AWS with the support engineers, but also the solutions architects, with people in your team. So always very keen to make sure that you're using the tools and services in the way that you need it to work for you. So yeah, I'm really glad that you've benefited from that interaction so far, and really excited actually to let's see some of these games, right? I think
definitely.
Yeah.
I mean, the games that we got actually in production right now, like actual in production, not pitching, but in production. Obviously, we've got Rift, which is the spin-off game off the movie, which you saw the trailer earlier. We then also have Syncromania, and if you look very closely, you can see the actual main character that you play in Syncromania is also from the same universe of Rift. So yes, we are also sharing the assets. Yeah. Exactly, which is why we're also sharing the city assets, Syncromania assets from Rift. So it's a universe, and that's the thing about when you create, when you create a universe in something like Unreal Engine and you build your assets, you can be very smart in how you can repurpose not just the assets to make a game, but you can tell multiple stories and different ways of telling that story. So Syncromania follows the angle, the POV of the bad person that's in the movie Rift. Whereas in Rift, you followed the protagonist, right?
The hero, yes.
Exactly. Yeah, awesome. And I always find this way. I love stories where you see the antagonist. Like, what's there? Why are they so evil? So that's what we decided to make Syncromania, which I'm going to show you footage of in later on in our chat. And obviously, the other game we're working on at the moment is Moontopia, which is a VR experience, but due to NDAs and all that, we can't show any footage of that today. But we are exploring in VR. So all of that is an Unreal Engine. Yeah,
and that's still the same team. So the team that you just shared with us is doing multiple projects hand in hand. That's incredible, definitely. And I really like that storytelling touch. You've got the protagonists point of view with Rift and understanding their motivations and
Yeah.
how they go through that journey. But you've also got the other side. You've got the villain side as well. So
Yeah.
that's a nice storytelling touch. I'm really excited about that.
Definitely, thank you. Yeah, and the interesting thing was, for Syncromania, it wasn't really about like originally, it wasn't about let's tell a story from an antagonist. It was like the Sync just looks so badass. I'd just love to play as the Sync. They were like, oh, okay, in that case, we should really focus on the story. So yeah, but like seriously though, like story is king for any of the IP that we create, and it's even when we decided to make the movie Rift, we wanted to have a reason for making it. Same reason we're making the game Rift and Syncromania, even Moontopia. Why should we tell this story, and how do we make a story that's accessible universally and not just to a niche market, which I find is very important.
Yeah, that's really interesting. And I think before we dive into the gameplay, just really curious. So you used the Unreal assets from the movie. Was there any kind of cleaning up? Was there any kind of changes that you needed to make to make it work within the game environment?
Yeah, I mean, there's always going to be a level of optimization. I mean, Sam Rebello is this genius game designer and environment artist that is working on Rift at the moment. What's really great is our conversation we usually have is we load up the Unreal Engine levels, the scenes from the movie, which is super high res and everything. And we're like, okay, this is cool. We'd love to have a level where we're in the bedroom or we're on the street. And then Sam would look at it like, okay, great. I see that. I can see the aesthetic. I'm going to take that into the game, but I'm going to optimize the hell out of it and sometimes end up rebuilding the environment using the assets. Because I think it's modular based, right? So if you want to build a room, you don't really have a single static mesh of a room. You just got these walls, which you can then draw spline and then generate the walls, right? So Sam would end up doing that. And obviously there's a lot of stuff when you're working in real-time gaming that things like lighting and so on is a different way of working. So there's there's things like LODs, by the way, LODs, level of detail. So things like the characters have to be LODed. But what's really cool, Darren, is that back in the day, I remember working in games and creating LODs was such a nightmare. You physically had to create 4 different LODs, so it depends how far you are in the distance of the characters. So whereas in Unreal, it generates LODs for you, and then you can go in and optimize LODs. So creating LODs is so much faster today thanks to things like Unreal.
So it's really the Unreal Engine has allowed you to use what you've already made, make it kind of accelerate you to the point where you get to sort of test it out, have a test environment, see if the gameplay mechanic works or if the level of detail is right. And then, because you're using AWS, you're able to just kind of scale this out quickly, get some beta testing going and get some feedback.
Let's start from the beginning, which is pretty much like the early access demo that we created. So this was something that we created, I would say July, but we kind of released it August. I think it's August, September. Time flies. And this is the very much like, we had the cinematics playing, so we still kept a lot of the storytelling. But what's really cool about this cinematic is that you're seeing this cinematic play in the game. This is not pre-rendered. The movie's pre-rendered. This is actually in the game, and then we switch into gameplay mode. Now, what's really great about the mechanics of this game that we've spent a lot of time working on is the fact that there is an onboarding process to get our players on board. But really what you're doing is the onboarding is how do you control Leon, our main protagonist, but also how do you control this kid? So this is a game mechanic where you're controlling your main guy who's doing all the action. At the same time, you're controlling the asset, which is the kid. And the kid just happens to be the thing that you have to protect, stop bullets hitting him and protect him from being taken from the bad guys. But you also get to do this, which is use him as a weapon in a good way. But the only downside is the more you use him, you can see he's really tired there. He's kind of like holding his chest.
Right.
So we kind of coined the term responsible gaming. So gameplay mechanics. So like, yes, your little brother has the ability to do these really cool telekinesis powers, but let's be smart on when you use them. So things like, using it to like access or cause an EMP surge to allow you to access rooms is a really great way to do that. We're not really pushing for things like making the kid have the ability to blow people's heads off because
sure. PG-13, right? Let's
PG-13, and also that's like anime territory, like R-rated. We really want this to be like, let's be smart. So
maybe for another game, yeah,
exactly, maybe for another game. But then you can do things like, I'm going to forward this real quick, and then so this is a moment here where you do a bunch of action. You can kill the bad guys, and this is really one of the first early pass lighting is in here where Sam's really like gone to town with the blues and the reds,
Yeah, the
very much
detail's incredible.
mimicking.
Yeah.
Yeah, no, thank you. And this isn't in Unreal Engine 5, by the way. This is Unreal Engine 426.2. So this is
Oh,
the
right.
only
Okay.
game that we're making that isn't in Unreal Engine 5, and there's a really big reason for that. We built a lot of tools when making the movie that migrates nicely into the game. And we
Okay.
realized when you're trying to move that into Unreal Engine 5, which is a complete different tool set, nothing works. We're using things like ALS for the animation system, the locomotion system, that kind of breaks. So we're keeping that in 426. But what's really cool is we're able to make it still look really good without the use of lumen lighting. Just Sam's really great when it comes to like environment art. He's very smart in making sure he bakes all the light in. So this is why we're able to move around very fast, close to 60 frames per second, and yet we're not generating lighting on the fly. Obviously, certain things are dynamic. Like flickering lights or gun weapons and so on.
Yes.
But this is a really cool effect. A lot of people commented on that actually, with the fact that we have this dynamic work.
Yeah, I love it.
And
I absolutely love
and
it.
again,
And the lighting as well, the reflections. It's actually really it's eye candy, right? And I think that's the expectation. Even though it's a small team, indie developer. You've already been able to take it up to such a high level, to set the bar so high in terms of what the player gets to experience. So all of these environments, they're within the film as well, so you can kind of tie it back to the universe. Right.
100%. Yeah. I mean, obviously, one thing that we realize is taking like this level here, for example, in the movie, it's actually much smaller.
Okay.
Because when you're making a movie, you're building your environment based on what you see in your frame, right? Whereas, so we cheat a lot when you're in movie making, just like when you do a set for a movie or a theater. Whereas in a video game, you can't really cheat. You can't build for the frame. So we realized that a lot of the environments we bought from the movie, we had to expand them out. Otherwise, your characters is going to be colliding with objects, right? Whereas in the movie, you can art direct and choreograph where they move and stuff like that. But like particles was a big thing, and the interesting thing is there's a lot of effects in here that we came up with that we realized at the time while making the movie, we're like, this looks way better than the movie. Like, why are we not getting that in the film? So there's this whole thing about movies are adapting. Games are adapting what movies are doing, but in this case, the movie is adapting what the game's doing, because we're like, there's so much stuff in real time that you can experiment with. So that's what we released, and you can actually like download this now. Anyone who's watching the stream can actually just like go to Steam, QR scan that, and you can download the demo, and play it. And FYI, it's early access demo, which means it is buggy, but it gives you an idea. And there's a Discord channel you can just which is available on Steam to access and give feedback on. But that has been such an eye opener for us, Darren, because like coming in there like with our being brand new developers, we realize is like you can talk to the industry people, which we do. We talk to a lot of industry people giving us advice, which is amazing. But also, it's always nice to hear from the players themselves, and some of them are brutal, by the way. But if you put aside trolls and so on, there's some great feedback. We've had people that are working in the games industry that are on the Discord channel say, "Hey, I see what you're doing there. You could probably do it like this." Oh my god, this is amazing! Like we have our own like QC team here, which is fantastic. Or QA team.
I think that's great, right? You have that outreach to the passionate community. They're willing to give you advice and be there with you on your journey. I think it would be super cool. Maybe if there's an achievement or something that you could like mention to those players who joined early during the early access, to be like, they helped us build this game, and that's a really cool little like reminder of where you started and where you've come to so far. And I'm just looking forward to like the full release. Actually, this looks amazing.
Well,
it's interesting some of the scenes from the movie.
Yeah, no, 100%. I mean, speaking of achievements, Darren, one of the things that we did was our artists Sam and Robin, who was working with us at the time, they created the Discord channel because they just know Discord way better than me. And what's really cool, because they are hardcore gamers, they are the gamers, right? Which is interesting about people making this game, is they are the hardcore gamers themselves. And we ran these competitions, like whoever does the best screenshot, they will get featured. There'll be a weapon named after them, or they get to also they get to also design a weapon. So we're going to do these things where more people that engage, the more we get them to come in and say, okay, help us design a weapon and we'll name the weapon after you kind of thing. So there's a level of ownership, which I think is really cool. So yeah, so we're doing that. And again, there's the power of the internet, the power of social media, Discord, the community allows us to help build a game. So by the time we finish this game, it's something that they want and that they've been involved in. But one of the things that we did realize was we got a lot of comments from people assuming it was a AAA game.
Right,
I mean, you've nicely mentioned that it has very lush lighting and art direction, but people forget that we're not a AAA studio. Secondly, the reason why we've got so much visual fidelity in our environments is because they all came from the movie. The characters came from the movie. Now, if we built this game from the ground up, it would take much longer, right? Because even the characters, Andrea Tatechi, our head of CG maestro, spent time creating those characters. Alex Kong, Ace Raul, Gabriella, the motion capture artist, created all the animation that we're using in the game. So so we had to figure out, how do we go forward with the full release? Right. Do we want to go and make a fully fledged 10-hour, 11-hour game that has a AAA quality, but we're a small studio, or we set ourselves up to fail? There's all these things that come to your mind, right? And I'm sure a lot of developers watching this will probably relate to. So we then came up with the idea where Sam plays a lot of these games by Telltale. And we realized those games are genius because they're episodic, right? Even like games like Life is Strange, they're pretty much episodes, right? So we can make an episode of this, like chapter 1 on the run, that can last like an hour and a half, 2 hours max gameplay. Get it right, bookend it, release it at an affordable price, like $5.99 something, so that anyone that can access it. You don't have to be like $50 or 70 quid to buy a game. Play it, and if they love it, we see how the traction goes, and then we then do chapter 2 and chapter 3. And it's a very similar approach to how television works, right? You do the pilot, release the pilot, and then you start releasing episodic. Except in our case, it wouldn't be every week. It'd be like every 7 or 8 months. But it allows us as a company, as a production company, as an indie studio to reduce our risk financially and production-wise, but also allows us to, on each chapter, keep refining the game. Do things that we couldn't do in the original chapter and fix things as well, as opposed to relying on downloadable patches and so on.
Yeah, no, I like that. I really like that. You have a bit more space to actually do the storytelling. You can go that much deeper into the motivations, the different characters. And okay, so this is like a new level here. So this is very different to the trailer. Actually, it's a bit dark,
exactly,
a bit scary, kind of thing.
So what you're seeing here, Darren, is literally straight out of Unreal last night. Okay, I captured this while we're playing this. So this is exclusive just for you and AWS and everyone that's watching this. And what it is, this is the first episode. So the episode that we're talking about. So in this episode, Leon wakes up in his room, and the player gets to learn about the world of Leon's, Leon's demons that he's trying to battle, where he lives. And me and Sam's had a lot of conversation talking about, let's really allow the player to really, appreciate Leon's struggle. And also, we didn't want to rely so much on big cinematics, even though we're a cinematics company. We didn't want to rely on just like watching, tons of cinematics to tell a story. We wanted an immersiveness way to find the story. So we love games like Resident Evil, where you can walk around, pick up objects, and read about things like the Umbrella Corporation. And we did a similar approach to here, where you're allowed to like walk around Leon's world and really like kind of fall in love with this character, realize, oh my god, this guy, he lives in a very messy world. He's got a lot of CRT, like old school monitors that kind of sets the tone of the game. The whole tape player thing. We love it.
Retro, super retro.
100%. And what we decided to do was, we didn't want to set this in New York or Japan or anywhere, London. We kind of created a fictional city called Neo City, right? And Neo City is basically retrofuturism. It's a term, you can check it out. It does exist. And retrofuturism is combining the best of the retro world and the futuristic world to create this unique world where you can mix the both. And I love that. I love retrofuturism. I'm a huge fan. So that's kind of the art direction I kind of really push for, to have this. But this already, you can spend like 20 minutes just walking around the room. And we had Mr. Whiskers, the cat, in there as well.
Mr. Whiskers. There's a little cat. These are little Easter eggs, right? Everything from HaZimation.
100%. Little everything. Exactly. But then the idea is, once you get out the house, there's a cinematic of the car driving, and now you have to break into Axiom. See, because the demo we released, the footage that I
Yes.
showed you previously was you're
You're
already with
inside.
Max, right? But
Yeah.
here we wanted to go, no, let's go from the beginning. Let's let
Yeah.
the player access Axion, the big bad building, and let
Yeah.
the player break Max out. And
Yeah.
that's the entire chapter 1, where you got Max, you go, you do the whole thing where you blast all the people, and you get to the end and we end that chapter. So we really wanted, and again, episodic really allows us to really take our time to tell that story, but do it in a very immersive way. So in here, there's a bit of a tutorial on how to like use your torch. But then once you get to the back here, I mean, a lot of it is like,
Yeah, starting to
Sam's a
recognize
huge,
this environment. Yeah.
yeah. Sam's a huge fan of Last of Us, so
Oh,
you
yeah.
can see a lot of influences there. I'm a huge
All,
fan
all
of
my
Metal Gear
favorite
Solid.
games are coming up here. I love this.
Exactly. But this was a moment where I really wanted to have a stealth mode here, and I love Metal Gear
Right.
Solid. I'm a huge fan of Hideo Kojima and how he does that, and
Mhm.
even like
Mhm.
games like Ghost of Kojima as well, which I've been playing a lot, where there's elements of like stealth, right? It's not just going bang 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 action, and to really help immerse the player a little bit about the story and the environment. So it's really dark, it's really eerie, but what's really cool is I love the fact that we haven't even shot anyone yet. All we've done is
Yeah.
exploring, and we're doing stealth to really help build it up, right? And there's some really cool
Builds
effects work
attention.
here.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah,
Definitely builds attention.
totally, just like you would in a movie. So this is like really early footage that we're showing here, but like by the time you get caught by the bad guys, obviously you start again. But once you go in,
Mhm.
it really allows you to scope the area, and we're going to put loads of Easter eggs and stuff. And the idea is you find a weapon, you find the access key, then you go into the elevator, and then you're in Axion, and that's when you then start. So you go pick up your first weapon, you get to pick up there, and boom. So,
No, I
yeah,
love
so,
it. I love
so
it.
you guys
It's
are the
amazing.
first. You guys are the first to see this.
Yeah.
There you go,
with,
Axion. That's where we're going.
Yeah, it's amazing. I like it. I really like that. You take your time with guiding the player through the world. It gives you, as storytellers and owners of the IP, a bit more time to actually let them figure it out for themselves. And
100%.
yeah, no, I think so. This is the bad guy game, right? So now we're moving on out from Rift. Make sure to our audience, make sure you go check it out on Steam, and you have the early access for that. But yeah, let's hear a bit more about Syncromania.
Yes, definitely.
What's this
Now
one about?
now this one's gonna be a bit of a shock for you because it's completely different. The style is very different. And really what I wanted to do was we knew we couldn't do two big games. That even though we're not a AAA studio, Rift is a big game, right? But like I said earlier, we're able to do that level of quality of the big game, full 3D immersiveness, because of all the assets we had already from the movie. So it's literally a spin-off. Syncromania, one of the things that we really love doing is the fact that we wanted to see what it was like to play as the bad guy. And what's the backstory of the Sync? And originally the Sync was built as a machine for law enforcement, right?
Okay.
So we then came up with this idea where I spent a lot of time. I love animes like Cyber City Oedo, 808. I love Akira. I love all of that stuff. So I wanted to create something that kind of reflected my childhood. When I grew up playing games, watching manga and anime. And one of my favorite games were games like Contra, the side-scrolling games where they're kind of run and gun shooting, right? Where you don't need to focus so much about the plot. There isn't any cinematic bridging. It's literally you put your quarter in the arcade machine, up, down,
Action.
left, right, bang, bang, shoot, action, right? And it's repeatable gameplay. So we want to do something like, so we end up building a specific system inside of Unreal that allowed us to do side-scrolling game, yet still had the fidelity of Unreal Engine 5. That's right. So this game is made entirely in Unreal Engine 5.
Right.
Let me show you some footage. Again, this is exclusive, Darren. You're the first to see this, and everyone watching this. So I am nervous, but at the same time, I'm super excited. So this is a very, very early build of the game, but this kind of gives you an idea of what we're doing, where we're kind of homaging the side-scroller genre, but then putting our own spin to it in terms of like having these high-fidelity visuals and 3D environments and action. And you can see here, we're doing things exactly what the Sync was doing in the movie, except here we're just going full on with the action.
Yeah,
and it's
love
really
that
simple. You
fidelity.
pick up your health. Thank
Sorry,
you.
yeah, it just looks so good. You said this is early stages or early in production, but the lighting is there. You have the physics elements. The fire looks really realistic, and obviously you've got kind of foreground, background details as well already at this stage. So, like this. How long would this have taken if you kind of try to bracket this?
Yeah, these games. I mean, first off, I had to give big kudos to one of our new artists that joined recently called Abbas. Abbas is responsible for like this insane amount of neon and fogging and atmosphere. He's a bit of a genius when it comes to that. So he only started this week, by the way. So you're seeing this lighting, and he took
Well done,
this week.
Abbas.
So that's like, so Abbas clearly is hired now. But all of this stuff also, the mechanics were put together by our amazing developer Ryan Fleming. So Ryan worked really hard in getting a lot of this game mechanics sorted, and of course, this entire system would not be possible without Andrea's really hardcore systems architecture, which is like he created a system that allowed us to drag and drop civilians, to allow us to drag and drop health and weapon upgrades, and even all the mechanics you're seeing here is using Unreal Engine 5's new animation system. And so Andrea helped that. So it's a small team. But in terms of the development time, this is a game that is designed to be made within 3 to 4 months dev time, and then obviously an additional month or two for testing. So it's one of those games that are very quick to do. And we really, the interesting thing, we don't know when Rift will be ready because it's quite it's quite an ambitious game, but we need to get a game out. So for us to make a game that was very simple with the game mechanics, fun, easy to pick up, but also doesn't drain our resources, but still reflects the studio's cinematic ethos of our visual fidelity. That was very important.
No, that's really good. And, I think, thanks for sharing that little detail on how long it would take and how much you've budgeted, because I think it helps also to set expectations when, at least for me, when I see something as polished as this and you're telling me it's early, this is early stages, early production, like it's almost a little bit intimidating, but actually being able to share these details is what AWS GameTime is about. So, thanks for being so open with us and the audience.
My pleasure.
That's really cool. Looking forward to this. Will this go for release? Like, do we have a rough idea? Like Q2?
Yeah, we're looking for this to be released July next year. That's the plan.
Awesome.
Definitely come out on PC, Steam first.
Yes.
We'll always release on Steam first. But this is one that's going onto console as well. So Xbox will be the first console that this comes out on. But we're quite excited because it's a I want to say it's an easy game to make. It's not, but it's easier than Rift because you're dealing with just one frame of perspective, right? You're not looking behind the camera and stuff. But yeah, keep an eye out. We're going to be doing more updates early next year. We're going to be releasing much more footage. And then at some point we'll probably release an early access of this as well because we love early access. We love community feedback for sure.
No, I think that's really special as well, and I think that's a key takeaway. And we'll summarize these for our audience towards the end as we wrap up. But we've got kind of some time left, but maybe you can show us some exclusive footage. I think you mentioned.
Yes. Okay. So what I've showed you previously were PC games and console games, right? But we're also involved in, everyone's heard this word now, Darren. You know what I'm going to say, the metaverse, right? Yes. Everyone's talking about the metaverse. And what's really interesting is that, we've been working with this company called X-Mana for like a good part of the year now. And they're huge fans of the work we do in cinematics, but they also love the stuff we're doing in games. So we are very heavily involved in the gamification side of this metaverse project called XLANTIS. Now, XLANTIS is a big undertaking. This is probably the project that's enabled our studio to really grow. We're hiring constantly at the moment. Any Unreal Engine developers out there? Send me your details. But this is like essentially a big open world game. It's essentially a big like MMO, right? But what's really cool is this is all done in Unreal Engine 5. It uses all the skills that we've learned making games and also all the skills we learned storytelling to create big open world games. One of my favorite open world games of all time is Grand Theft Auto, right? I love Grand Theft Auto. You know what, Darren? I don't think I've actually played Grand Theft Auto properly, like the story.
Right.
Ever since I bought all the games, all I've done is sandbox gaming, dude. Like getting into the cars, geting all the weapons. It's
jumping into the plane, trying to land out of the plane. Yeah.
Totally. I don't think I've actually completed a mission. And we wanted to bring that to XLANTIS. So XLANTIS is this huge metaverse, which is designed to be able to like play video games, like play PvP games, but also to be able to have social interaction with other people. Or we're talking like hundreds of thousands of people eventually. Superhero land in there.
I like that.
But also you'll be able to like go and build your own properties and a lot of user generated content. This is something that one of the reasons why we're doing XLANTIS is the fact that not only because we're doing this big open world game that we can fly around and go to virtual concerts and do all these amazing things, but which is like reflective of what Web3 is about, but also the fact that we could create a community and also create user generated content. So the plan is, you'll be able to go into any of those buildings and create your own rooms and own that room. You'll be able to create your own part of the city and own that city. You can create your own part of the city and also make a game inside that city as well. So one of the things we're doing is, because it's a very sports-driven metaverse, you'll be able to drop in here and invite your friends and have a game of virtual football. Or there may be already a team playing and you'll be able to just play. But this is all running in real time, by the way, what you're seeing here. This is not an animation. This is, you can see here, there's like frame counter up there. This is all in real time, but like, this is me flying around having way too much fun thinking I'm Superman or something. But this is a huge project. This is not, we don't have a release date for this, just in case you're asking. But this has really allowed us to think much bigger than just making contained games. This is like, this is literally pure Web3. So that's one of the things that's allowed us to grow. Yeah, it's amazing. But also what's really cool is we're still making games. We're making games inside of the XLANTIS project. So one of the games is Mannaracer, which is this racing game, which we develop. And the idea is these games are free to play, by the way. They're what you call minimal viable products. So unlike Rift and Syncromania, which are massive, full book-ended products with tons of layers and levels and so on, this is just one level where you can race the hell out you want. You can go blast people if you want. We're going to add guns on those cars soon. It's going to be super awesome, like Mad Max. But the idea is to bring people in and engage and have fun and then have leaderboards. And this is where we've been working very closely with the solutions architect at AWS, because we have to figure out a way of managing multiplayer session. Because remember, we're not a multiplayer developer. We're doing co-op for Syncromania, but that's local co-op. So Game Lift has been something that we're very much looking into. We've had amazing conversations with the solution architect that's like literally hand-holded us and guided us through the process. And now we're looking to put this through Game Lift and create session-based multiplayer games. And again, like, if I tried to attempt to make a multiplayer game, say 10 years ago, without access to something like Game Lift, I'd be like, oh my God, I have to hire like a team of like 10, 15 people developing our own multiplayer system and server-based system. Whereas with AWS, we literally have that, the APIs and so on, and we can just go in and start, prototyping our multiplayer right away and start testing it on the server.
Yeah, that's incredible, right? Because with the multiplayer games and how everyone's online, you just expect low latency. You expect the game to look pretty. You want to make sure that you have that persistence of your information, so it's easy for the player going forward. Yeah, no, I think this is really cool, and I like the cats. There's cats everywhere. It's just
I know
really the Easter egg for HaZimation. Yeah.
Oh, totally. I mean, clearly we're cat people.
Yeah, no, I love it. But I mean, like, this is great, right? I can see how much work HaZimation has done just with such a small team. Thank you so much for partnering with AWS. I think just wanted to make sure that your team has the tools and the services and the support, right, to make this happen. Make all of these different projects happen. And I think thanks so much for sharing this with our audience today.
My pleasure.
I think just to kind of close off, are there any big plans that you want to anything else that you're going to share for 2023? I mean, obviously
wasn't that enough, Darren? No, we've got a bunch of other projects in development, man. We're obviously working on we're working on 2 animated feature films that are our own IP. But we can't announce that yet. But I think that the 2 games that we got going and the VR game that we're working on, Moontopia, and the big XLANTIS project should keep us busy for a while, Darren.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I'm looking forward to seeing all of this get released to the public. And for our viewers and for our audience, definitely check out the early access game. It's on Steam. Make sure to just give it a go and give some feedback, because we know that Haz is listening. And then lastly, thanks for spending so much time with us and going through all of the work that you're doing. Maybe we could do a summary of the words of wisdom coming from HaZimation. So I think I've been trying to keep this list with me. So like, use AWS to control your costs and allow you to scale up and down. You mentioned version control, so making sure that taking advantage of the ability to work at a distributed way, but also have that quality of life, right? You don't want to be copying and pasting files through some kind of storage online, and you want to be able to be working from the same, basically the same piece of code. I think you're best placed to really talk about how to engage the community. I'll kind of let you.
Yeah, there's 2 pieces of advice I would love to leave with, not specifically you, Darren, but to everyone watching. is there's two things. Firstly, as artists, whether you're making a film, music, games, anything, a book, whatever, as artists, we can be very precious creatively. Whether we want to share stuff very early on, it's not ready kind of vibe. And very early on at the company, we set this precedence and this ethos, which is the following words, which is progression over perfection. And what that usually means is don't spend forever trying to get that perfect tree, which in a game, people are not even going to look at it because it's going to go past. Or in a movie, it's going to be motion blurred, right? Just get stuff in as soon as you can. Just get it in. No one's going to judge it. No one's going to judge, the hue of the leaves of that tree isn't right. No one cares. Not at this stage anyway. So just one of the reasons why we're able to get so much productivity, so much output with the games that we're doing. And it's amazing that you find that the visuals that we're doing are really cool and you love it, and I'm thankful for that. Yeah. But it's very early. But because it's progression over perfection, we just throw it in there and experiment. The other thing also is I get a lot of like wannabe game developers, aspiring game developers, aspiring filmmakers that are afraid to take the jump. They're like, oh no, right. For a movie, I need the expensive Arri Alexa camera. Or I need $2 million to make a movie. Like, where to get that number from? We have iPhones. We have we actually have phones that you can shoot your movie on. Same for game. Like, I want to make a game. I've got ideas, but I don't really have the time, or I need the resources. And I'm like, no, screw that. Download Unreal Engine for free. Yeah. Install it. Start playing, start making stuff. And this is how we were able to do that. We decided to make a game because we decided to test what it was going to be like, and we had so much fun making the game. We're like, let's make a games company. So I think it's not easy to make video games. I'm going to tell you that now, but it is easier than it was 10 years ago. So I think people should just like throw away their fears, get out their comfort zone, and just make. And look, last thing I'm going to leave you with, I know I said two, but I'm going to give you a third one because I'm on a roll here, is don't be afraid to fail. There's this fear of failure in our culture, like just in the creative industry culture itself. I'm constantly messing up like every day, every week. But you know what? There's those mistakes that makes you as an artist much better at what you do. Like, we released early access. We had a lot of people say, oh my God, this weapon system sucks. That's okay. That's fine. That's okay. You just make it better the next time. Just make the best project you can within your own resources and just keep learning, man. Just don't be afraid to fail.
Yeah, that's super inspirational. I think we've seen the journey for HaZimation. Super excited for the road ahead. And also, I think just want to highlight, we're here. AWS is here. So there's contact us. We have the QR code at the top right. We have a landing page there where you can actually put your details and like post up what you're expecting from us and how we can help you with your project or with your kind of dream gaming project going forward. And we'll be in touch. We'll make sure that we give you the support there from either a technical standpoint, but also, as Haz mentioned, some of that funding support as well, if that's needed for your use case. So, wanting to encourage our audience to take the key takeaways from our talk today with Haz. So thanks again. Thank you so much for sharing with our audience. And to our audience, be inspired, as Haz has said. Don't be afraid to fail, but just keep experimenting. And I guess as the sign off for AWS GameTime, keep building and keep gaming, and we'll see you in the next episode. Thank you, Haz, for joining us.
Yeah, thanks. Bye.
Bye-bye.